I'm Barry. It's September 18th, 2011, and I yesterday had a triumphant public speaking engagement at the Dragon's Breath Theater in which people were clapping and they gave me a standing ovation, and afterwards people were telling me that I should vlog. And I didn't know what that meant because I thought maybe it was one of these parties where people would all start having sex at the end of the party because they had all taken some type of drug that made them want to have sex. And I thought that's what they wanted at first, and I was uncomfortable. But why is there a dog behind me? I'm trying to vlog and there's a dog. So this is take 2. I was having take 1 of my first official vlog, but I was interrupted by both a dog and other things. So anyway, last night after my triumphant performance, people told me that I should vlog, and so I had to come home and find out what a vlog was, and I found out that there's a lot of people who are doing a vlog, and a vlog is when you sit in front of your computer and you talk about the things that you think you know about. But most people, I found out, when they have the vlog, they don't actually know what they're talking about. They're just talking and they're going blah, 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 because I think they're very lonely people who don't really feel empowered in the world, and they want to feel like they have a voice and have someone to talk to. So they talk to their computer and then they press the button and it goes on the internet, and then they think that they're important. But it's not for me to judge. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I'm entirely going off the entire point of what I'm trying to say. But sorry. I found out that if I'm going to have a good vlog, it means that I should be prepared and have a topic. And that I shouldn't just be talking blah, 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 like people do, but that I should have a point. So I thought about it, and I wrote down on a bunch of index cards different topics that I should talk about. And I was thinking maybe I would read all of the index cards here as my vlog, and that would be my first vlog, is that I would talk about my process of how I come up with things to talk about for my public speaking engagements. But then I thought maybe I'll do that another time. So instead, I will just get right to the point. And the point of this vlog for today, and this is September 18th, 2011, is that I think people are wasteful sometimes here in America, and that they throw things away that are still useful. Now, I know that this is a topic that a lot of people have talked about, but I'm just going to give a couple of examples of what people do, and that you could do it a little bit differently, and things would be better. So, my first thing, okay, this is a jar of ghee, which is spelled G-H-E-E, and what that is, if you can see, is that it's clarified butter. What that means, it's like regular butter, but through some process, they've taken out the milk solids. And for what that means is that people who are lactose intolerant can eat ghee, which is like butter, but they won't, like, have diarrhea. Which, when you smell the ghee, it smells just like butter, but it doesn't smell as good. Now, I don't know anything more about how that works, but that's not the point of what I'm trying to say. The point is that if you look at this jar, a lot of people would look at that jar and think that it's empty, or even more than half empty, in that sort of negative way of looking at things. But if you look at it, there's a lot of ghee in there. And not only is the jar good because you can put all kinds of things in the jar, but with the ghee, you can take a piece of bread or like a warm tortilla, and you can go in there and you can get all of that ghee out of there, and it doesn't have to go to waste. That's just one example, and that might be obvious. A lot of people might not throw that away, but I think people do. Now, here's another thing. I was hoping to have like a similar thing with the ghee, but with honey. Now, honey is really hard to get out of a jar when there's only a little bit, particularly if the jar is really thin and long like that. Like, you'll go in there, but you can't get your hand in there, and you can't get a piece of bread in there, and a spoon will only sometimes get all of the honey. So most people, they might just throw that away, like that. I was hoping to just throw it over my shoulder, but then as I was throwing it, I thought it might hit that piece of wood down there, and it would break, and then I wouldn't have the jar. And so I tried to catch it without looking, but then I dropped it. Sometimes I think about these things, but not fast enough. So my point was that you see how clean this jar is of the honey? What I did is that I made tea. I made hot water, and I put a tea bag in there when there was just a little bit of honey left, and then I poured the hot water in the tea, and I put the lid on it, and I shook it up, and it got all of the honey off, and then I had a really nice tea, and now I have a jar. And the last example, and this is why I thought of this to vlog, and this is something that's really frustrated me when I've seen people do it for my entire life. Toothpaste. Now, this toothpaste, it's kiss my face. This toothpaste, it's almost empty according to most people. Like if you got to really squeeze and oh, some is more coming out. So there's still plenty of toothpaste in here. But in a few days, this toothpaste will get to the point where you really have to squeeze to get it out. And then I know this is for a fact, most people would just throw that away and start with a new one. But you know what? You don't have to do that. In fact, that's very wasteful because there's still like 2 weeks worth of toothpaste in that tube. You just have to try to get it. And what you do is you take a scissor. You take a scissor and you can cut it right there. If you cut it right there, and then you have this piece of the toothpaste tube right here, just that little chunk, and then you take that little piece and then you can open it up, and then you can scoop your little toothbrush in there a little bit, and you can get days worth of toothpaste. And it's important to chop it up into little chunks like that, because if you were just to cut it here and then stick the toothbrush all the way in there, then you would get toothpaste all over the handle of the toothbrush, and that would be frustrating. So what you do is you can chop up the toothpaste tube, and you can have like 2 more weeks of toothpaste. And if you do the calculations of how much you spend on toothpaste, like over 50 years, and like an extra 2 weeks of toothpaste, like every 3 months, which is how long it takes to go through a toothpaste tube, that's in a year, that's like an extra month. And so over 50 years, that would be 50 months. And so that would be like 4 years and 2 months worth of toothpaste, which for every 3 months into 50, that's almost 17 at like $5. That's like $85 over your lifetime that you'd be wasting on toothpaste if you don't just make a little bit of effort. That's all I have to say right now. That was my vlog. And unfortunately, there's not an audience here like I had last night at my public speaking appearance who would applaud and let me know for sure that what I was saying was very interesting and entertaining and very useful, and that it's appreciated. But I guess what I have to learn to do now is to go on the internet and to put on my vlog on the internet, and then maybe you can hit a button and say that you like it. And that will encourage me to do more. I understand that that's how it works. So this has been September 18th, 2011, and I am Barry, and this is my vlog. Goodbye.